Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my week number 8 wide receiver rankings for fantasy football in 2021. Inside today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my top 32 ranked wide receivers of the week, as well as explaining why I have them ranked at each and every single spot inside the top 32. But before we can get into things, I would like to ask, if you are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Not only is it free, I put out content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure to leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. The link to my Twitter is also down below in the video description. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 8 wide receiver rankings. At number 1, the headliner of the wide receiver rankings of the week is Cooper Kupp, wide receiver of the LA Rams, going up against the Houston Texans this week in Houston. Last week, up against the Detroit Lions, Cooper Kupp went to Pound Town. Cooper Kupp has basically been one of the top 5 wide receivers every single week, and it was very shocking to me early on in the season. I figured that Robert Woods was the number 1 guy on the LA Rams, like he kind of was for Jared Goff. Now, that didn't mean that Cooper Kupp was going to be irrelevant, invisible in the offense for Matthew Stafford, but I thought that Robert Woods was going to be the guy. That was completely wrong. I was way off on that, and Cooper Kupp has been the guy game in and game out. Going up against the Houston Texans, this game may get messy. The LA Rams are going to lay the pipe like they are a plumber to the Houston Texans defense, and I expect Cooper Kupp to have a humongous showing in this game. At number 2, we have Jamar Chase, wide receiver of the Cincinnati Bengals, going up against the Jumbo Jets in New York. The thing with Jamar Chase, he also bamboozled me, just like with Cooper Kupp. Jamar Chase, early on in the offseason, this guy is not playing very well in training camp, and then it gets to preseason, and the guy can't catch the ball, and then right before the season starts, it comes out and it's like, hey, Jamar Chase can't see the football. He can only see the NCAA football because it has the white stripes on it. Jamar Chase is going to struggle. All of this, and that was a complete and utter, it was like bullshit. It was like a fib or something that they were telling us to not draft Jamar Chase. And then out of nowhere, in week number 1, this guy's on top of the world, and he has shown absolutely zero decline. This Cincinnati Bengals offense looks amazing. The Bengals offense looks like one of the best offenses in the NFL, and this week going up against the Jumbo Jets, we should expect a blowout, and I expect Jamar Chase to have a very solid showing. At number 3, we have Debo Samuel, wide receiver of the San Francisco 49ers, going up against the Chicago Bears in Chicago. The Chicago Bears team as a whole has been a complete and utter dumpster fire this season. The Bears are going to be without Matt Nagy, their head coach, in this game due to COVID, so maybe that actually fixes everything. Maybe the Chicago Bears go out there and win the game because Matt Nagy doesn't fuck everything up. But at the end of the day, is that what I expect to happen? That the team's going to do a complete and utter 180 in 1 week and actually look pretty good? Probably not. Debo Samuel is the clear alpha wide receiver in San Francisco. A lot of people were just assuming that eventually the Brandon Ayuk from last season would just return, right? That he would magically come back, that Kyle Shanahan would actually give him the correct usage, and that has not happened. We're already 8 weeks into the season. If you have Brandon Ayuk, I'm going to be honest with you, you probably could cut him at this point. You probably should have gotten rid of him already because he isn't providing any value. The value is all going to Debo Samuel. Even with the fact that the 49ers are so effective at running the football, Debo Samuel has been very valuable for fantasy with Jimmy Garoppolo, as well as with Trey Lance under center this week, with Jimmy Guap under center. I expect Debo Samuel to have a very solid showing up against a not-so-hot Chicago Bears defense. At number 4, we have Tyreke Hill, wide receiver of the Kansas City Chiefs, going up against the New York Football Giants. Tyreke Hill gets the Monday night game, and the Chiefs have looked like a complete and utter fucking unmitigated disaster. The offense is just not playing as well as it used to. Now, does that mean that the Chiefs have one of the worst offenses in the NFL? Of course not. They are still one of the better offenses in the NFL, but things just haven't been going right. These receivers, their ball is hitting them right in the hands. It's bouncing up in the air. Pat Mahomes is throwing a million interceptions. Some his fault, some the wide receiver's fault, and things just aren't looking too great in Kansas City. But if there was ever a game to get right, it would be up against the Giants. I think that Tyreke Hill is going to have a solid game. I think it's very hard to rank a guy with the skill set of Tyreke Hill very low because all it really does take for Tyreke Hill, it's not 10 targets that's going to make him have this humongous game. It could just be 4 targets. The man has 3 catches, and 2 of them go for 70 yards, and now he has 2 touchdowns, 140 yards, and 2 catches, and that can win you your week. Tyreke Hill has that game-breaking potential this week up against the Giants. You're going to fire him up. You fire him up every week, even with the dismay for the Kansas City Chiefs. At number 5, we have Stefan Diggs, wide receiver of the Buffalo Bills, going up against the Miami Dolphins. Now, last year, Stefan Diggs was on top of the fucking world. This man was dominating game in and game out. Up against the Dolphins in week 17, when I believe Matt Barkley played in that game, so did Josh Allen. Stefan Diggs thought it was so easy that he was literally flossing his goddamn teeth on the sideline up against my Miami Dolphins. It was very disrespectful. It was very funny to see, though. This week going up against the Miami Dolphins, the Buffalo Bills, for the last 2 seasons, have pounded out the Miami Dolphins defense. This week, I believe it will be no different. Stefan Diggs hasn't been on a tear this year. He hasn't been a complete and utter bust, but he hasn't really had any of those big games. But if there was ever a chance for him to do it, it would be up against the Dolphins, because the Dolphins have no idea how to stop Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills offense. The Dolphins defense couldn't even stop Matt Ryan last week. So what do you expect Josh Allen and Stefan Diggs to do to them? Probably some very naughty things. At number 6, we got Justin Jefferson, wide receiver of the Minnesota Vikings, going up against the Dallas Cowboys. The rankings of the Dallas Cowboys wide receivers that we're going to be talking about in a little bit so heavily hinge on the fact that Dak Prescott plays. Now, we thought today that something was going to come out that says, hey, Dak is either playing or he's not going to play. It seems as though they are going to wait until Sunday to make that call. Their game is on Sunday Night Football, which means that we're probably going to have to wait until an hour and a half before Sunday Night Football to really get the news. Now, I hope that Mr. Jerry Jones, or whoever the fuck, I assume Jerry Jones doesn't just announce who's inactive if Dak Prescott's going to be playing or not, but I hope the team comes out and tells us, hey, Dak isn't playing, or Dak is playing early tomorrow morning. Will that happen, though? Probably not, right? Because you don't want to let the other team know until shortly before the game if Dak is going to be playing or not. So that is very worrisome for me. Obviously, that has not that big of effect on Justin Jefferson, but it does in a way, because if the Dallas Cowboys have Dak Prescott, then you could expect this game to potentially be a shootout, a back-and-forth affair between the Minnesota Vikings and the Dallas Cowboys offense. But if that is not the case, right, and Cooper Rush is the starting quarterback, and things aren't going well for the Dallas Cowboys, then maybe the Minnesota Vikings aren't slinging the rock all around, right? Maybe they're just handing the ball off to Dalvin Cook. They're winning the game, and they want to skedaddle their way out of there. How possible is that up against the Dallas Cowboys defense for them to just absolutely spank them? I'm not too sure that's entirely possible, but if the Dallas Cowboys offense can't get anything done, then you would think that Justin Jefferson would be able to have a solid game regardless. I am just slightly worried about the shootout factor being gone without Dak Prescott. At number 7, we got Deontay Johnson, wide receiver of the Pittsburgh Steelers, going up against the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. The last time these two teams faced off, maybe they faced off this season, I don't remember, but what I do remember is the playoff game last year where the Pittsburgh Steelers got spanked by the Cleveland Browns, because as Juju Smith-Schuster said, the Browns is still the Browns, and that was completely wrong. That was so wrong. The Cleveland Browns shit-stomped the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. That game was hilarious to watch. But this year, I think Deontay Johnson is going to be involved. He's going to be very involved. Deontay Johnson, I've kind of talked about this in so many videos, basically, all year long. Even when Big Ben is having these big games, when Big Ben is not playing like his former self, like the Big Ben that we all know that is actually a pretty solid quarterback, when he's not playing like that, Deontay Johnson is still able to perform. And that is because Deontay Johnson is such a key focal point in this offense that he just gets fed the ball left and right throughout the game. Him and Najee Harris are basically immune from a bad Big Ben game. But I do assume Big Ben looks solid in this game, as he has looked the last couple of weeks. He's kind of started to recoup his old self. I think he plays pretty solid here up against the Cleveland Browns. And number 8, we have A.J. Brown, wide receiver of the Tennessee Titans, going up against the Indianapolis Colts in Indianapolis. This is a very interesting play because A.J. Brown, for the beginning of the season, until last week, has been a complete and utter disaster for your fantasy football team. How many times have I said complete and utter disaster thus far this video? I'm pretty sure it's 3 times, but it's true. He was a disaster. He was playing terribly. He wasn't really getting the ball. The whole offense was Derrick Henry, and they were just pounding out these teams. Early on the season, the Titans team just didn't look very good. And then, out of nowhere, A.J. Brown he doesn't have COVID, he gets sick, he has this food poisoning, and then he plays all right in that one game, but then last week, the man was fully unleashed up against the Kansas City Chiefs. I do expect him to be more involved in this offense, and hopefully now he doesn't have food poisoning, so he could play even better up against the Colts. And number 9, we have DJ Moore, wide receiver of the Carolina Panthers, going up against the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta. DJ Moore started off the season, coming out the gates, this man was on fire, and then recently, he has definitely went on a downward track. Now, does that mean that DJ Moore is going to be shit all season? Probably not, right? It seems like it is bound to go back up. The big thing that is really hinging on DJ Moore's value is not DJ Moore, because DJ Moore is being targeted when he gets the ball. He does things with the ball to advance the ball, move the ball up the field, and have a good game. DJ Moore is a very talented player. The biggest issue here for DJ Moore is not DJ Moore. It is Mono Man Sam Darnold, quarterback of the Carolina Panthers, because sometimes Mono Man Sam looks like he's Jets quarterback Sam, but without Adam Gaze's coaching. He looked like the Sam Darnold that all the Jets fans wanted him to be, but he wasn't. And then, as of recently, things haven't gone too well. But DJ Moore is still being heavily targeted, so you would think that if Sam Darnold is able to just flip the switch just a little bit, play just a little bit better, that DJ Moore could look really good this week up against a not-so-hot Atlanta Falcons defense. At number 10, closing in the top 10, we have Chris Godwin, wide receiver of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, going up against the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. This would have been an awesome game to see Antonio Brown in. If you guys remember the Antonio Brown New Orleans saga from a couple of years ago, I think that was after he was on the Raiders, and then he goes to the Patriots, and then he wanted to go to the Saints, I think, and they didn't let him sign. Or maybe it was before that. I don't know. The Antonio Brown saga has been crazy, but it would have been a revenge game in my mind. We will not be seeing Antonio Brown in this game. Typically, we're going to be talking about Mike Evans. Mike Evans doesn't play the best up against the New Orleans Saints, but I still think that it's entirely possible that he plays very well because the Buccaneers offense is just so good. With that said, though, Chris Godwin should be able to flourish in this game. This could be a very high-scoring game if the real revenge game here, famous Jameis Winston, gets it cooking. He's cooking it up, and he's able to fire back at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Then we could see a very high-scoring game leading to a very pass-heavy game from both offenses, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New Orleans Saints. But before we can get on in to wide receivers 11 through 20, I would like to ask if you have ended up enjoying thus far to please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, make sure to leave a like on today's video as well. It helps me out a ton. And you can follow me on Twitter at NotoriousFNTSY. Back on into it. Week 8 wide receiver rankings coming in at 11 and 12 wide receivers of the same team. Mike Williams is wide receiver number 11 of the LA Chargers, going up against the New England Deflatriots. At 12, we have Keenan Allen, also wide receiver of the LA Chargers, going up against the New England Patriots. Despite Keenan Allen being a very talented wide receiver, he just hasn't had all of that amazing of a year. Justin Herbert, the pervert, looks really good. This Chargers offense as a whole looks really good, but there are down games for Allen. There are down games for Mike Williams. The New England Patriots defense doesn't really scare me. The question here is, how does this game end up going? Is this going to be a shellacking by the LA Chargers offense? Do the LA Chargers let loose on the New England Patriots, or are the Patriots and Mystic Mac Jones able to fight their way back on into this game, and this game gets close, and maybe it's not as much of a blowout? Because to me, the Patriots are a very hard team to read, because in some games they look really good, right? They look good up against the Cowboys. They could have beat the Cowboys. Looked like they could have beat the Buccaneers and Tampa Bay Tom Brady. They beat down on the Jets, but they also lost to the Dolphins at the beginning of the year. The Dolphins haven't won a game since, so I'm not really too sure how to read into this team as a whole, their defense, their offense. I think they're an all-right team. I think Mike Williams and Keenan Allen will be able to get it done, though. I just hope that we see more Keenan Allen as of recently, so I like Keenan Allen here, as well as Mike Williams up against the Patriots. At number 13, we got CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver of the Dallas Cowboys, going up against the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. Now, we talked about this a little bit earlier when we were touching upon Justin Jefferson. If Dak Prescott does not end up playing, then CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper's wide receiver 16, we'll talk about him in a little bit, they're going to plummet down the rankings. The issue is that this game isn't at 1 p.m. It's not at 4 p.m. It is at 8:15 or 8:20 Eastern Standard Time, whenever the fuck that game starts at night. So the biggest worry here is what is going to happen. Because if Dak doesn't play, then I don't think you want to be, hoorah, let's fucking fire up CeeDee Lamb, because I just don't think the value is there with Cooper Rush as the starting quarterback. Maybe Cooper Kupp would be better as a quarterback. Doesn't he throw the ball sometimes? That was actually a very bad comparison, because Cooper Kupp has actually thrown the ball twice in his career, because I do remember it, but he hasn't completed a single pass, so Cooper Rush probably is the better bet for the Dallas Cowboys. But again, without Dak, you got to think that this isn't going to go as well. You got to think that CeeDee Lamb might struggle some more. Now, obviously, since Mr. Cooper Rush isn't the starting quarterback, he's not that great, he's going to just feed the ball to guys like CeeDee Lamb, to guys like Amari Cooper, to the talented wide receivers. But again, you just can't be as confident as with Dak Prescott in the lineup, so I'm pretty nervous about CeeDee Lamb as well as Amari Cooper, and I just don't think we're going to know about what to do with CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper until tomorrow night. So if you have other options, and it seems like Dak isn't going to play, which is what it kind of seems like right now, because while Dak wants to play, I don't think the team wants to risk a re-injury. So that's kind of my feeling on that. If Dak doesn't play, though, CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, they're flying down the rankings. At number 14, we have F1, scary Terry McLaurin, wide receiver of the Washington football team, going up against the Denver Broncos in Denver. The Denver Broncos defense just looks fraudulent. That whole team looks like a bunch of frauds because they look so good early on in the season, because they have these cupcake matchups. They beat the Jets, they beat the Giants, they beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, and after that, the whole fucking team has imploded on themselves. They're terrible. Terry McLaurin hasn't looked the best this season, not really because of himself, but he's just not really being targeted all that much by Heineke earlier on in the season. But more recently, things have started to click for Terry McLaurin. I'm pretty confident in him this game up against the Denver Broncos. I don't love Taylor Heineke, but I do think Terry McLaurin will be able to get it done in this matchup. At number 15, we have Calvin Ridley, wide receiver of the Atlanta Falcons, going up against the Carolina Panthers. It seems as though now the Kyle Pitts era is upon us. It has finally clicked. It clicked in that game up against the Jumbo Jets in London, and then they had their bye week, and then last week up against the Miami Dolphins, Kyle Pitts went off. He basically sealed the fate of my Miami Dolphins in that game by catching a pass into a zone. I don't know why the Dolphins were running zone. Dolphins stinking zone. Don't know what they were doing. They'll probably do the same thing up against the Bills this week, and then Kyle Pitts just pounds that zone, just absolutely raw dog that zone, and it was bad. Calvin Ridley had an all right game. Things for Calvin Ridley haven't gone great. This Atlanta Falcons team seems to have looked a lot better from the beginning of the season to right now, right? They look a lot better right now, but Calvin Ridley still isn't performing all that up to my liking. I thought, hey, with Julio Jones gone, it was going to be Calvin Ridley season, but it just hasn't been. But at the end of the day, you still got to roll him out there up against the Panthers, who just got shellacked by the New York Football Giants. At number 16, we got Amari Cooper. I basically explained all my thoughts on Amari Cooper, and I put them on CeeDee Lamb. It's the exact same thing. I know how good Amari Cooper is. I know how good this Dallas Cowboys team is, but without Dak Prescott, potentially, things are worrisome. Things are very worrisome. Now, I'm still fine starting him and CeeDee Lamb if you don't have other top-end options, but at the end of the day, most of the time, I'm probably going to fade away from those wide receivers if we get a lot more news tomorrow. So tomorrow morning, when I'm doing my live stream, if you guys want to check that out, I'll probably talk a lot about that as the news gets closer and closer, and maybe we hear some more stuff on if it seems like Dak's going to play or not. At number 17, we have Mike Evans, wide receiver of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, going up against the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. Again, Mike Evans has struggled immensely versus Lattimore. So I'm a little bit worried, but I also understand that this could be a high-scoring game, and Mike Evans may just break out, right, and have that great game. So you can't rank him all that low because of the player he is, as well as the fact that this could be a very high-scoring game, and Antonio Brown is gone. So I like Mike Evans, wide receiver 17. Number 18, we have Michael Pittman Jr., wide receiver of the Indianapolis Colts, going up against the Les Titans in Tennessee. Now, I know a lot of people may be like, didn't we just see the Kansas City Chiefs offense get shut down by the Tennessee Titans? Doesn't that mean that the Indianapolis Colts are going to struggle? Carson Wentz isn't as good as Patrick Mahomes, don't you know, Nick? The Colts are going to struggle. They're going to struggle. No, like, sure, the Chiefs didn't look great against the Titans, but the Chiefs just suck. Again, I think they're going to turn it around. I think they could still make the playoffs. But right now, they fucking suck. And there is no way to sugarcoat that. Michael Pittman going up against the Titans. Michael Pittman has been making what can only be described as grown man catches. This man is mossing dudes. It's amazing to see. Michael Pittman really came out of nowhere, in my opinion. I didn't think he was all that talented of a player from his first year in the NFL. He looks great now. Hoorah, fucking round of applause for this guy. He looks great going up against the Tennessee Titans, which is a soft defense. I like Michael Pittman. At number 19, we got Bobby Trees. Robert Woods, wide receiver of the LA Rams, going up against the Houston Texans in Houston. If you guys watch my videos on the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel, I also write articles on there. It's just another YouTube channel. It's basically the same shit that I talk about here, just on there. So it's basically still me. Still talk the exact same way. Still have fun. I talk about my must-play wide receivers of the week, my must-starts. Michael Pittman and Robert Woods were both on there. I like Michael Pittman a lot. I like Robert Woods a lot. I think a lot of people, while Cooper Kupp obviously deserves the credit. This guy is insane in the membrane, as they would say. This guy is unreal. But at the end of the day, I think Robert Woods does still deserve some praise. Going up against the Houston Texans is a cupcake matchup. I think he should be just fine. Closing in the top 20, we got DK Metcalf, wide receiver of the Seattle Seahawks, going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. DK Metcalf was one of the all-time stories of last week about how he was trying to have a foursome, I think, with an OnlyFans girl, which was really, it was just a funny story all around. DK Metcalf laying that pipe. Apparently, he's fast in real life, fast in the bed as well, but who am I to judge? DK Metcalf is awesome. He's very fun to watch play football, but with Geno Smith, things aren't so awesome. Because Geno Smith isn't awesome. He's bad. Geno Smith is bad. He hurts the Seahawks. But Nick, they're playing up against the Jaguars. I understand. They are playing up against the Jaguars, so there is some upside there still. There is still a chance that he has a big game up against the Jaguars, but I'm just worried. I'm worried, but I do think that DK Metcalf is miles away, just so much safer than Tyler Lockett, because Lockett just isn't being targeted at all by big man Geno Smith. Next up, we move to wide receivers 21 through 30. Again, if you have ended up enjoying, please make sure to hit that subscribe button as well as hitting that like button down below. 21, we got Adam Thielen, wide receiver of the Minnesota Vikings, going up against the Dallas Cowboys. Again, how healthy is Dak going to be? How does that affect this game? Does that affect the fact that this game is going to be a shootout? 100%. The odds of a shootout happening without Dak Prescott are obviously much lower. I still do like Adam Thielen, though. It seems like he has been more involved as of recently. I know he did have a dud a couple of games ago, but he's looked fine. They were on bye last week. I expect him to look pretty solid here up against the Cowboys. Number 22, we have Cortland Sutton, wide receiver of the Broncos, going up against the Washington football team. Cortland Sutton was also one of my must-start wide receivers of the week. Why is that? Because I think a lot of people are going to start getting a little bit nervous. They're going to go shell up a little bit like a fucking turtle, get a little bit scared because Jerry Judy is back, and Jerry Judy is this, Jerry Judy is that. Jerry Judy was the main guy there at the beginning of the season. But what people aren't remembering is that Cortland Sutton was banged up going into the year. Cortland Sutton wasn't 100% going into the year, and now Cortland Sutton is 100%. Cortland Sutton has played 7 games up to this point with Mr. Teddy Bridgewater. Jerry Judy just played 1. So the connection is clearly there with Teddy Two Gloves, and they're going up against the Washington football team, whose defense is very bad. Very bad. That was a defense that everyone in the offseason, bang, 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 slamming the drum, banging the drum like, holy shit, it's going to be the Washington football team defense. They're amazing. I thought so too. They stink. They're terrible. Cortland Sutton could be in for a very solid showing. At number 23, we got Kadarius Toney, wide receiver of the Giants, going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. Galladay out, Saquon Barkley out. It appears that Sterling Shepard as well as Kadarius Toney are questionable. I think Kadarius Toney plays, and Kadarius Toney, when healthy, is the best receiver on this team. Bar fucking none. This guy's the best. It's not even close. This guy is the number one guy. He's better than Galladay. He's better than Shepard. He's better than Slayton. This guy is a monster. Now, again, I'm not saying 100% that he is going to play, because he does play on Monday, but it seems like things are trending towards him playing, and if he does play against the Chiefs defense, then I expect another great game out of Toney, because Toney, if you guys remember, in the game he got hurt, he was leading the team in receiving yards, basically for a majority of the game, and the motherfucker played like 7 snaps before he got hurt. Moving now to wide receiver 24, we got Emmanuel Sanders, wide receiver of the Buffalo Bills, going up against the Miami Dolphins. Emmanuel Sanders has averaged about 5-6 targets every single game. Emmanuel Sanders has been a touchdown threat for the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are without Dawson Knox. That sounds great. So they're without Knox, who gets a lot of touchdowns. They're going up against the Dolphins, who allow a lot of touchdowns. The Buffalo Bills are going to score a lot of touchdowns. They are favored by 14 in this game. Emmanuel Sanders is a very good wide receiver. He's the number 2 behind Diggs, and he's going to have a good game. Emmanuel Sanders, I love at wide receiver number 24. At number 25, we have Chase Claypool, wide receiver of the Pittsburgh Steelers, going up against the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. Chase Claypool has been pretty solid this season. With Juju Smith-Schuster early on this season, things weren't looking the greatest, but because now that Juju Smith-Schuster is injured, Chase Claypool has really kind of filled that role that we thought he was going to have all season long. Going up against the Cleveland Browns, this isn't the best matchup, but I do still think Chase Claypool is a very solid play. At 26, we got Tee Higgins, wide receiver of the Cincinnati Bengals, going up against the Jumbo Jets. It's very clear that injury thus far this season has affected Mr. Tee's play thus far on the season. Going up against the Jumbo Jets, though, could be the ultimate corrector. Though it is quite obvious that Jamar Chase is the number 1 wide receiver. So with that said, I think Tee Higgins could have a good game, but you want to be putting a majority of your eggs in the basket of Jamar Chase because he's probably going to easily outscore Tee Higgins. At number 27, we have Devante Smith, wide receiver of the Philadelphia Eagles, going up against the Lions. Now, realistically, in Detroit, this should be a very easy game for the Philadelphia Eagles, but Nick Sirianni, this team as a whole, just doesn't look very good. It seems as though Devante Smith is a very risky asset game in and game out. While I understand that he's the best wide receiver on the team, while I believe he's the best wide receiver on the team, in a lot of games he's not being fed like that. He's not given the correct opportunity to be able to have a very big showing. Now, going up against the Detroit Lions, again, just like going up against the Jets, maybe it is the ultimate corrector. Maybe Devante Smith has 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. That wouldn't surprise me at all because, again, Devante Smith is very talented and the Jets defense sucks complete and utter cock. Oh, never mind, I guess they're playing up against the Lions. I kind of, mismatched it in the head, but that's the same thing with Tee Higgins, right? He hasn't been playing all that well. Going up against the Lions defense, they aren't very good. They're pretty fucking bad. So I do expect Smith to play well, but the risk is still there, moving him down to wide receiver 27. At 28, we have Brandon Cooks, wide receiver of the Texans, going up against the LA Rams. It appears that Davis Mills is going to be the starter this week, which takes Brandon Cooks' upside and fucking throws it out the window. Now Mark Ingram isn't there. What does that do to the offense? Probably nothing, right? We're just going to see more David Johnson, Brandon Cooks, going up against the Rams. I don't love it, but he's still the number 1 receiver. If Davis Mills somehow just figures out how to throw him the ball, he'll be fine. Not a guy that I like at all this week, if I'm being honest with you. I have moved a lot lower down on Brandon Cooks. Once Tyrod Taylor comes back, I'll be a lot more confident in Mr. Brandon Cooks. At number 29, we have Marvin Jones, Marvin, wide receiver of the Jacksonville Jaguars, going up against the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle. The Seattle defense, the Legion of Boom, no longer. I got so many good comments. The Legion of Gloom. There are so many good ones. I'm going to go back and read them. I'll try to use a different one every single week. The one that stuck with me was the Legion of Gloom. They are now that defense is not very good. The Jaguars offense, they're not very good though, obviously. But at the end of the day, Marvin Jones is still the number 1 wide receiver on the team, going up against the Seattle defense that could allow a bunch of points to them. I'm fine with Marvin Jones this week. Again, nothing super exciting about Marvin Jones, but he is the number 1 receiver on the team. At number 30, we got Jacoby Myers, wide receiver of the New England Patriots, going up against the LA Chargers. This is far from an ideal matchup, but since this is just not the greatest matchup, something tells me that Jacoby Myers is actually going to score. In these soft serve, easy ass matchups that you would expect Jacoby Myers to finally score his first touchdown of his career, it just never happens. But now, since he's going up against the Chargers, a defense that I think is pretty solid, that's when it's going to happen. So now we move on to wide receivers 31 through 32. At number 31, we got Jalen Waddle away, Waddle, till the very next day. Bum, 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 bada, bum. The worst game of Jalen Waddle's career thus far was up against the Buffalo Bills. The Bills defense is good. The Dolphins offense isn't amazing. This is going to be a bad game. But since the Bills, I expect to butt-fuck my Miami Dolphins, take them out first. They're not even going to take them out to dinner first. This is just going to be show up to the house, walk on in, plow, and then get out of there. It's going to be brutal. It's going to be bad for the Dolphins. But with that said, they're going to have to pass late in the game. Hopefully Tua, oh please, Tua, do not get hurt. Knock on wood. We need Tua to stay healthy. Tua got destroyed in the game last time. I'm so nervous to watch this game. It scares me. Tua should be fine, though, to throw the ball to Waddle late in the game. But early on, don't expect too many points from Waddle. And at 32, we got Lockett. Now, again, I talked about him with DK Metcalf earlier on in the video. I don't like Geno Smith. He screws over Tyler Lockett. But there's always the chance All it takes, it's a lot like with Tyreke Hill. All it really takes is just one deep strike that Geno Smith just somehow magically fucking connects. The game is on Halloween. Maybe there's some magic in the air, and Geno throws the ball to Lockett, and it just actually hits him. And it actually fucking lands in Lockett's hands, and then Lockett could take anything to the house. Maybe he catches that 80-yard touchdown. It's the ultimate corrector, like Deontay Wilder's right hand. So I expect Tyler Lockett to be okay in this game. Not okay, actually. I expect him to be bad, but there is always the upside that he's really good, and that is what scores him a spot inside the top 32. So thank you guys all so much for watching. Again, if you did end up enjoying, please make sure to hit that like button as well as hitting that subscribe button down below. I love you guys all so much. I hope you have a great rest of your guys' day, and as always, kapoi!